Want to listen to the podcast where we talk sports raw and unfiltered?
Mahomes looking to flip, takes it in for the touchdown.
Looking for a little something on the edgy side?
Keep your head out there. They're going to do dumb. Play our game. All right? Play hard, but stay poised.
You're about to be locked into the Unscripted podcast.
Let's be great. Let's be great.
Oh my God, man. Welcome everybody, Unscripted Podcast, episode number 4. Wow. Okay. Just to be blunt with everybody, took a couple of days off. I think those days were needed. Everybody knows the situation at hand, what's going on with Jacob Blake being shot in the back. It's got to stop at some point. But, if everybody knows me, man, I can tend to become very emotional sometimes. And I get it. Sometimes, being emotional and having the phone in your hand isn't the best thing. I tweeted out so many, not crazy things, but so many emotions. And they're my opinions. And my emotions are fair. I've earned, anybody's earned that right to voice their thoughts and their opinions. Our thing is this must come to an end. Somebody has to put a stop to it. Carmelo Anthony came out and stated basically, we need cops. And that's the truth. We do need cops. We just need to, I guess, weed out the ones who are doing these vicious attacks all around the board, man. It's definitely a sad one, man. I watched Chris Webber. I watched Kenny the Jet Smith. All those guys, Robert Horry, deliver passionate statements about the situation at hand of what's going on. Okay, so you're listening to the Unscripted Podcast on any platform that you're listening to, whether it's Apple, iTunes, Anchor, Spotify, Stitcher, however you listen to your podcast. Truly appreciate it. As always, a cheap and shameless plug. You can follow me at Brian A. Lion. Always got to throw my shameless plug in there. Let's start off first talking about the Boston Celtics. Now, I know it becomes draining hearing about the Celtics. Well, when a team that really, to me, came into this year losing Horford and Irving, one via free agency, actually both via free agency, even though the Irving was a sign and trade. You lost both of those guys. People counted Boston out of the mix. Boston's in round 2, playing the Toronto Raptors. In a few minutes, I'll have a good friend of mine, Sean Backey from CLNS Media, joining me to basically, talk everything Celtics. Those guys at CLNS Media, I love them to death. If everybody remembers, man, I did stuff with them for, over 6 years, whether it was behind the scenes as an on-air talent or anything like that. So I definitely appreciate those guys and all the work they have done and work that they continue to do. So give them a follow as well at CLNS Media. But the Raptors and the Celtics were supposed to kick off Thursday. I know Gordon Hayward's still out, and I know Kyle Lowry is out with the injury. I guess everybody's going to start asking the questions, was the time off considered rest days? Was the time off really necessary if they were only going to sit for a couple of games? That's an answer that I don't have. I don't have that answer. All I know is that these guys, my opinion is if they walk away from the bubble, they lose their platform. Meaning that if they go their separate ways, then nothing continues to become established. Everything starts to go left. Everything starts to go right. Again, man, I'm a diehard Celtics fan. It's great to have always a great guy who talks Celtics with me, and we used to do a podcast together, which is very crazy. He's initially the first guest, but I don't like calling friends guests. But to label the podcast, to have it perfectly, I would say he's our first guest of the Unscripted Podcast. Is Sean Backey from CLNS Media. Sean, what's going on, man?
Ryan, good to be on the air with you, man. It's been a long time. I actually looked it up the other day. Talked about our podcast together. So we did 40 podcasts together, among other on-air appearances together through CLNS Media, and it's been 5 years since we've been on the air together. So too long.
Wow, 5 years. Good. Yeah, because it was the you're right, because we did the it was the evening score, and then we did what was the promo that we did at the end? Oh my God, what was it? God, I gotta look it up. Man, that's years ago, man. We definitely had a ball, man.
Years ago.
Definitely, man. And I can say this, man. I appreciate you being number one. I told myself the first guest had to be somebody close, man. Definitely somebody that I'm truly close with. Again, I talked about at the beginning of the show, man. All the crazy stuff that's going on in America. First, Sean, I want to get your thoughts here, man. So the NBA, before we talk Celtics, the NBA decided to resume its playoffs. Give me your initial thoughts when it first stopped, and now that it's starting back up.
Yeah, and obviously it's a difficult situation that we're seeing out there. But from my perspective, I applaud what these sports leagues are doing, and it was started by the Milwaukee Bucks. I applaud them for using their platform to bring this awareness to the systemic racism and social injustices that we're seeing. The NHL, the Major League Baseball, they followed suit, and these athletes have a platform that they can get the message out there, and that's what I am. Really tough to even put the words together, but I'm really going to be supportive of the decisions that they're making with this. And now that they're going to be back and playing again, I hope that they continue to bring that message, whether it's messages on their jerseys on the court, when they get a chance to talk to the media. We got a couple of guys here with the Celtics that are really. Jaylen Brown is a mature, intelligent young man, and I really love what I'm hearing from him off the court. Even since day one, I didn't know much about him before he got drafted. Mm-hmm. He's a Cal Berkeley guy. He's very, very intelligent, and I just love what he's doing with his platform and with his voice. And I think Jason Tatum is saying this, many of the same things, and his maturity as a young man is just something that's amazing to see, and I hope that they continue to use their platform, to do these good things like bringing awareness to these issues. Jason Tatum said it the other day that what I do in a basketball court doesn't really matter right now, and I agree with that. It's gotten to this serious enough point where the athletes feel strongly enough that they don't want to be on the court playing. They want to be, they want the issues that are happening to get the limelight, which they should.
Talking to Sean Backey from CLNS Media. Always give him a follow on Twitter at CLNS_Sean. Follow the network at CLNS Media. Sean, and again, that's why I had to get you on today, because again, I'm so emotional. I tend to go off the deep end, whereas you kind of reel me back in and want me to see things from the other side. Remember, Tatum and Brown are in their 20s. They're young.
Right.
I couldn't imagine somebody asking me at 21 through 25 to be this mature, because I was definitely immature at that age. I didn't have a clue about anything. So,
Me too.
it's big respect for Tatum and Brown for always stepping up and speaking out on it, not being afraid, not writing anything down on a piece of paper. It's just coming from the heart, man. So I guess us as Celtics fans, we truly appreciate that. My question would be is that the Celtics had a rocky offseason last year. It was a lot of pointing the fingers. Kyrie Irving walked. Al Horford walked. A lot of guys counted the Celtics out. It was, okay, the Celtics will start falling back to 6, 7, maybe 6 or 7 in the East. They acquired Kemba Walker, Enes Kanter, who plays around on Twitter and jokes with Nick Wright all day long about how wrong he was on that. Give me your thoughts, man, on the Celtics season. Even before the stoppage, I think they were playing some decent basketball.
Yeah, it seems to me that the Kyrie Kemba switch didn't really set them back as much as the so-called experts thought they would. And Nick Wright is a perfect example of that because he tries to just crush the Celtics whenever he gets a chance. And I know what you're talking about with Dennis Cantor, and I thought that was great that he was chiming back in on that. But obviously we have one more year of Jason Tatum, one more year of Jaylen Brown. Gordon Hayward, before he got hurt, obviously in the bubble, was feeling, much more like himself, much more like Utah All-Star Gordon Hayward.
Definitely.
And you could see when he's on the court how their offense just flows. When he's the facilitator, it just flows. But also you have a guy in Marcus Smart who is, a year more mature. He's feeling very much safe and secure in his role, extending a contract, and he's just out there balling, really. I mean, every game he does something that, you're not going to see on the score sheet, but that helps the Celtics win, whether it's diving for a ball, taking a charge, making a steal, whatever the case may be. He's really the lifeblood of that team defensively, and I think he's gotten better facilitating as well. I'd still like him maybe to take less threes once in a while, but and then so you have some pieces that have been with the team for a year or two now, and you could see are contributing. Daniel Theis, I think, is a great example of that. I think he's matured into a great role player for this team. I think he's getting, he's not liking the what the refs are doing to him sometimes, and I think that he's getting the short end of the stick against superstars like Joel Embiid. But even guys like Brad Wanamaker and the young guys that they drafted, Romeo Langford has gotten a lot of playing time since they came back. So you got all these guys that are playing together. They have nothing else to do now but play basketball. I think the camaraderie of them being together in Orlando is really, you're seeing it shine right now, and they're getting better. So they're going to go against a team now in the Toronto Raptors that, again, everyone thought was going to fall back because because they lose a superstar player, probably a Hall of Famer in Kawhi Leonard, and a champion. They won the championship last year, and everyone's like, oh, they're going to fall back in the East, but they're right there, and they got great defense. They got a deep bench. They got a great coach. He won the NBA Coach of the Year award. I like what their team is, and I think that they can survive without Kyle Lowry, and the Celtics can survive without Gordon Hayward. So it's going to be a battle, and I'm looking forward to seeing it. And I really like what the Celtics have done this year, and I think the sky's the limit for them. I think if they play their game and do what they've been doing, that they have every shot in the world to go to the Eastern Conference Finals and maybe beyond.
That's crazy that we're at this point again. Talking about the Celtics and potentially being back in the Eastern Conference Finals, and you said it. I mean, I think Toronto has a very deep bench, which could be a killer for the Celtics because while the Celtics have a solid bench, I think the Raptors have a little bit more scoring off the bench. But if Van Vliet has to move into the starting lineup for a couple of games, that affects the bench because when he comes off the bench, let me give this guy credit. Fred VanVleet is something special, and Toronto won't have the money, of course, to keep him because when it's time for payday, somebody's gonna overpay for VanVleet, and that's what's gonna happen. But the Celtics have to come out in this round. I don't think they have to really worry about the dominant big man in the paint. I mean, Pascal Siakam. I mean, nice.
I love that kid, man.
But he's not Embiid. Oh yeah. He's grit and grind, man. He's grit. He's 1990, 95 basketball. Like there's nothing cute to his game. Everything is just fundamentals. He makes big plays on the floor. I think the Celtics are just going to have to watch out for the 3-point shooting. Toronto definitely shoots the three very well. I'm looking forward to this series. I'm looking to see if Brad's going to have to make adjustments, Sean, because remember, Toronto goes small ball. And when Philly went small ball, I'm going to be honest. When Philly went small ball, Boston had times where he struggled. Toronto goes small ball.
Sure.
What does Boston do if Toronto goes small ball?
Yeah, that's a great question. And, it's going to have to be all hands on deck. I think Brad will Brad Stevens will probably tighten up the rotation a little bit in this round, but he's going to have the talented defenders out there to be able to handle that, guys that can move their feet and stay with these guys. You figure with a guy like Marc Gasol, even though he's aging, he's 35 now, that would be enough to beat the Celtics because they struggle with strong fives like him. But like you said, I mean, Nick Nurse likes to go small with his guys, small, quick. So I think we saw in the series with Philly how a guy like Jason Tatum steps up his defense. A guy like Jaylen Brown is stepping up his defense. So those perimeter guys really need to, they need to make the switches. They need to, come under the picks and really need to challenge those guys. And, like you said, Toronto's going to hit those shots. But if they're challenging them and, making them move, making them try to change their shot at least, you got a guy that's named Jason Tatum that's so long. And he's really stepped up his game defensively since they came back from the stoppage. So it's just going to be a situation where it's all hands on deck. And one of the things that I worry about is getting in a shooting match with them. If Boston's trying to go shot for shot, hitting shooting threes, that Toronto might have an advantage there. But I think that the Celtics have the defenders to be able to do that. They just can't be making stupid fouls and getting into foul trouble early. A guy like Marcus Smart with Hayward out is going to be counted on more in the starting lineup. Like I said, I think the rotation will be tightened up a little bit. So those guys need to play really, really smart because regardless of who they lost this year, Toronto is right there where they were, where they've been the last couple of years. So it's going to be a battle for the Celtics to be able to get past the Raptors in the series.
I'm still taking the Celtics 4 games to 3. I think this one may go 7, depending on just depending. Everything says depending on this, depending on that. And again, I think Brad Stevens has done one hell of a job with this team. And no disrespect to Nick Nurse, he's done one hell of a team with the rebuilding of the Toronto Raptors. Well, Sean, I appreciate you, brother, taking time out of your busy day and coming to join us. And definitely you go down in history as the first guest. I want to bring one of my close friends on, man, and all I can always say is thank you, my friend, and I appreciate you taking the time out your busy day, man.
Hey, you keep grinding, keep doing your thing, and keep it green and keep it clean.
We'll see you on the other side, man.
Thanks, Brian.
That was Sean Backey right there, CLNS Media, man. Yeah, man, those guys are heavy Celtics talk. You truly have to appreciate every single thing they do. All right, what we'll do is we'll take a quick break. We'll come on the other side of the break. We'll talk about LeBron James versus the younger talent in the NBA right now. There were some things that came out today. We'll discuss that on the other side of the break. We'll talk about Nate McMillan's firing. You're listening to the Unscripted podcast. Hang tight, folks.
Hi, I'm Cynthia Bailey.
And I'm Mike Hill.
And our lives matter.
Black Lives Matter.
I am Dr. Contessa Metcalf, and my life matters.
Our lives matter.
Black Lives Matter.
My name is Tanya Sam. Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter.
Black lives matter.
We will continue to fight for Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, and George Floyd, and so many others who have lost their lives. But we have to create a change, you guys. We have to use our voices, our resources, and our wallets to make that change. I ask of you today to make a donation to Know Your Rights Camp.
Colors Change.
NAACP Legal Defense and Educational Fund.
ACLU. Black lives matter.
Our lives matter.
This is President Barack Obama. In the story of America, the greatest chapters are moments of challenge, when we see people serving their country and one another. Volunteers who step forward into hospital corridors and church basements, along levees and fire lines. And the next chapter is yours to help write. Sign up to volunteer at usaservice.org. That's usaservice.org. Let's renew America together.
A message from Renew America Together, brought to you by the Ad Council.
All right, Unscripted Podcast is back. Appreciate a good friend of mine's, Sean Backey from CLNS Media, coming on. I must say I truly appreciate what Sean does, all the work that he does for CLNS Media. Make sure you follow him on Twitter at CLNS_Sean and follow the CLNS Media Twitter handle at CLNS Media. So I say when we came back, we would talk about the Nate McMillan firing. We would also discuss about LeBron versus the younger guys in the NBA because there's some things that came out today. Guys, I am so puzzled here today because the other day or last week, Nate McMillan was fired, or the other day, Nate McMillan was fired as head coach of the Indiana Pacers. Guys, this is completely mind-boggling. First of all, Indiana, a lot of disrespect in that tribute by saying he was 3-16 in the playoffs. Nobody needed to know that. You could have thanked the guy. You could have talked about the accomplishments. You did not have to put somewhere in the piece that he went 3-16 in the playoffs. He hasn't. Nate McMillan didn't have Victor Oladipo. Okay, Sabonis was in and out of the lineup. Malcolm Brogdon in and out of the lineup. They got Mr. Cash Considerations, T.J. Warren. That's a good deal. I don't know who made the deal, if it was Nate McMillan or the front office. But to fire a guy who has restored the franchise, I think that it was the wrong move. I think that the Indiana Pacers are going to start going backwards. When you build a team, you don't want to continue to fire a coach and say, oh, well, he didn't get us to the championship. There are a lot of teams that don't make the NBA Finals, even the Eastern Conference Finals. And I feel like at the end of the night that I just wasn't cool with the Nate McMillan firing. And I know some people are going to say, man, it just had to happen. It was overdue. It wasn't overdue. I mean, again, he was the head coach for 4 years. He was an assistant. Mind you, he lost Paul George. Or he had to trade Paul George. He had no other choice. Paul did not want to be there anymore. He took the team and rebuilt it. Again, I talked about this before. Victor Oladipo. I think the Pacers, to me, took a step backwards. I don't know I don't know what their plan is with head coach, as far as being a head coach. I don't think not too many teams want to coach that small market. I mean, you're not going to attract a name like Tyronn Lue. You're not going to attract a name like, let's say if you wanted to attract a guy like Doc Rivers, and I'm not saying Doc Rivers is leaving the Clippers, but you're not going to get that type of marquee name. And I think you're going to be stuck with having to hire somebody in-house, which if you were going to do that, then you might as well keep Nate McMillan. So I don't know where the Pacers are going with that, but I wish their franchise nothing but the best. I just don't see the future with the Indiana Pacers. The reason why I talked about Doc Rivers and somehow slid that in, Doc Rivers came out and delivered something very, very emotional the other night. Again, I didn't record the clip because I don't want to play it again. It was kind of heartbreaking. But Doc Rivers, man, he's not just a coach. He's a father, and he sees what's going on in America, and he wants change. He's asking, what did we do? He wants to know those things. What did we do to deserve any of this? So I just, definitely wanted to give kudos to Doc, man, for coming out and speaking up for some of the people that, probably didn't want to speak up. And, again, credit to Doc Rivers, man. And let me explain something to you before I continue, is that I give Paul George hell. I called him Pitiful P on every podcast. He's been brutal to watch in the playoffs. He finally came out and he had a big game. He talked about mental health. Let me tell you something. I will joke around all day long. When we start talking about mental health, I will not laugh. I will not make a joke out of that. I have been through that personally. All I can say is Paul, man, can continue to push through. And again, it takes a whole lot to go through. So I can say, man, like I said, I hope you go through everything and I hope you get through it. Man, what a podcast. It's so hard because today's is like emotional. Again, I skipped out a couple of days because I just needed time to breathe. I needed time to relax. Needed time to get my thoughts together. Just didn't want to come on the podcast and kind of ramble and start crying or anything like that. Another guy, I'm not gonna say you got to feel bad for, but you knew when the league shut down, the first name that everybody tends to bring up is what? LeBron James. LeBron James this. LeBron James that. Well, LeBron did this. LeBron did that. Everything is LeBron. I don't think it's the right thing to blame LeBron or, the Clippers and the Lakers, they didn't want to play. But that doesn't say that, this is what LeBron thinks. I get it. We think that, LeBron right now controls the NBA. We feel like that we're in the bubble right now because of LeBron. Because if LeBron says, I'm not playing in the bubble, then the rest of the league just doesn't play. I know he was pissed off and he was like, forget it, I'm done. But I know he had a change of heart, like Wednesday night, I believe. Like Wednesday to Thursday, he had a change of heart. And as a human being, you can have that. I don't understand why nobody doesn't think you can't have a change of heart. Initially, when things happen, you are emotional. You're an emotional wreck. You're entitled to have a change of heart. I don't know why everybody's like ready to throw stuff up and down and around and, oh, he had a change of heart. He's entitled to that. You have a change of heart when you're at work. You have a change of heart whether or not you're going to come back from your lunch break. You have a change of heart whether or not you're going to get up the next day and physically go to the job. The man is entitled to that. I'm just not a fan of people just kind of beating down LeBron and going, oh, you can't have a change of heart. The one thing that is very, it's going to cause a problem maybe within the next week or so, and it happened today, which I had a feeling this was coming. I talked about guys not wanting to play, and LeBron comes out and he was frustrated by the Bucks' decision not to play. That's the report that comes out. I don't know. I don't know. I'm going to call BS on it because LeBron was very frustrated at what happened with Jacob Blake, and I don't think that he was frustrated by the Bucks not playing. LeBron wanted more of a conversation, so you have to pick up the phone and start calling these guys. Mind you, in the bubble, you ain't that far from each other. So I pick up the phone. I start calling CP3. I start calling LeBron James. I start calling anybody, high up in the NBA. LeBron's not on the president or anything like that in the NBA. It's Chris Paul. But you just start calling all these people and you have a conversation. I think he felt like there was no conversation and the Bucks took their own stand. And while that's okay, I think that you still should have a conversation with everybody just to be on the same page. I know LeBron had the initial meeting was we're out. And again, I've been saying this since the beginning of the show. I appreciate the guys staying there because I mentioned that if they leave, their platform gets a little smaller. If they stay, their platform stays the same, and it potentially even could grow. So I know that again, there's going to be a lot of tension right now. I said this is that. I get it, like the LeBrons and the Kawhi Leonards and any other guy who's making top-notch money right now, they were like, hey, we're going to walk out. But then there's some younger guys, even if they're on the Lakers roster or any other roster that are playing check for check. Their financial security is not set. They don't have extra funds coming in. So they're playing this game as a job, as a business, as for their paycheck. I, again, am not mad at that. I am okay with the decision of them wanting to play. Again, everybody keeps saying, and this is all like fiction. Like, this is fiction. Everybody's like, oh, well, LeBron could just give up some of his money and give it to the young guys. Come on, man. Like, okay, do you get up in the morning and just give your money away? You don't. Don't you even say that. If you think that you give your money away every single day, you don't give your money away. You can't count that man's coins. You can't do that. But I am excited that they're going to resume this, try to finish this thing off. I know now the question is going to be about rest. A lot of teams now are getting rest. the games were every other day. So now you start talking about sports-wise because everybody's like, oh, well, now since that's done, why did they protest? Now everybody's going to move over to this team had another day of rest. Now the series can change. If a series was 3-1, maybe it ends up going to 7 games. There are a lot of different things that can happen. There's a lot of different dominoes that can fall. But again, at the end of the night, I am truly okay with the guys going back to play basketball. And again, it's just we all have to stick together. We all have to take a stance. And it's just sad, man, that we're at 100 years later. 100 years later, and these things are still continuously happening. Again, shout out to guys like Kenny the Jet Smith, man, who, he walked out, man. He didn't think twice, man. So I truly appreciate what those guys have done. Going forward here, looking at the potential or the offseason for the Brooklyn Nets, I think we talked about this on the last show that Kevin Durant wants Greg Popovich. Kyrie Irving wants Tyronn Lue. God knows what happens. One series that we truly not ignore, but we don't talk about a lot, would be, again, the Clippers and the Mavericks series. I know that, Marcus Morris Sr. comes out and says, hey, I didn't step on Luka Doncic's ankle for, on purpose. But let me tell you something. I've watched this game. I have not played on a high level, but I have played rec ball and I have played street ball. When a dude is basically, in these terms, cooking you with one ankle, okay, and he's dropping buckets, and he hit a game winner, somebody starts to think in their mind, let me see how tender that ankle really is. Because guess what? If it's me, and I'll give an example. I played against somebody that said, oh, my elbow's hurting today. You know what I did? I tapped that elbow. I didn't hit it. I just tapped it. I wanted to see the injury. I wanted to see where they were at with the injury. So, again, I'm going to say to a certain extent, it was done. It wasn't on accident, man. He took a little stab at him to see what is going on with that ankle, and the ankle's hurting. And I don't know if Luka's going to be out or anything like that. But yeah, I think Marcus Morris Sr., not a dirty player, just maybe slightly took a dirty play. I know everybody's asking when we're going to start dipping and diving into the NFL. Hopefully on the next episode, we'll be looking at dipping and diving into the NFL. I know we're about maybe under a month away. A lot of changes have happened from, the Washington football team no longer being called the Washington Redskins, which we'll dive into in the next episode. There's a lot of things going on in the NFL, but today I wanted to focus more on talking about reality, talking about how can we better America, how can we possibly maybe set up something to test police for mental health. We talked about mental health earlier in the podcast. It could be that some of these cops have mental health problems. Let's get them off the force then, because there are good cops out there, and you feel bad for the good cops getting a bad rap. As I'm scrolling through right here, I'm looking at the 76ers. They are eyeing Tyronn Lue. I don't think that's a good job for Tyronn Lue. Again, I think a big man, because of their team, because of the way their team is built right now, that team will need a big man coach. I'm not going to toot the Patrick Ewing horn again because I know he's with Georgetown, and I know the Georgetown alums love him there, but I think they need a big man coach. All right. Again, I appreciate everybody that takes time out of their busy day to listen to the Unscripted podcast. Again, thanks for Sean Backey for joining me with CLNS Media. And I appreciate everybody taking time out of your busy days to listen to this podcast. Again, this was kind of a different one. This wasn't a dive in with sports. We talked about some reality. We talked about the changes that we want to see. And then all I can say is everybody continue to stick together. And remember, God is love. Get some. I'll see you guys on episode number 5.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Unscripted podcast.
Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform so you never miss an episode. We'll see you next time.